Welcome to the Meditation Podcast. You can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. We're also on YouTube. You'll find the links in the podcast description. I've got 4 other podcasts: the Speaking Podcast, the Learn Polish, the Crypto Podcast, and the Awakening, Exposing Fraud and Corruption, but with solutions. And being a podcasting coach, you'll find everything on bio.link/podcaster. My guest today, it's some part near Dallas, Texas, just outside, I believe, but she can tell you more. She's an author, psychic medium, certified spiritual advisor, educator, and a speaker. Please welcome Michelle Henderson.
Hello, I am so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And for those that are actually listening, if you're on Spotify, we have the video as well, so you can see, and you'll see what a beautiful background Michelle has.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. So you might let the listen. I mean, I've obviously touched on the kind of bullet points, but you might kind of let the listeners know a little bit more about Michelle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll do the quick version because, the older that you get, the more things that you do. So I know we don't have a week, but anyway, so I have been an educator pretty much most of my career. And I had spiritual awakening in my 20s. And I always used my intuitiveness and to work with the kiddos and their parents. And, and then finally, right before COVID hit, I told my husband, I said, you know what? I need to work as a psychic medium. I'm being pulled. I need to work on my gifts. I need to tune in a little bit. And he said, absolutely. So that's when my spirituality actually started working, and I started working as a professional psychic medium. And it was a great thing to do because I feel like my authentic self came out. And so I've been a little bit busy trying to keep busy in that area. And I love working with families that have children with intuitiveness as well.
Okay, makes sense. So, kind of what's your own kind of journey yourself when you kind of felt something that you could kind of relate to this?
Oh, absolutely. Because, so whenever I was a child, I could always feel that energy. And I know I've talked to so many people that did the same thing. They could feel the energy. They either, see deceased loved ones. Now, I didn't, but I could always feel what my friends were feeling. I was really a big empath. And of course, everybody said, "Oh, Michelle, you're just imagining things. You're so emotional. You need to stop being so emotional." And when I would tell my parents, I'm going, but I feel something in the room, some type of energy. I knew somebody was there. And they would kind of blow it off, either that or being in the Bible Belt of the United States. It was like, oh, don't go there, don't open that door, So I shut it down. And I didn't realize how many people went through the same experience until I decided to work as a psychic medium and take classes. And when I talked to a lot of people, they went through the same thing. And I'm going, you know what? We need to change that way of thinking. We need to help and embrace these children, because that if you don't allow them to really think and feel who they truly are, that's when you start seeing the behavior problems. And you start saying, and they're going, I'm just trying to find myself, and who to blame them. So did you ever go through that, Roy, when you were younger?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I've always been kind of in touch with, I kind of look at things totally different to everybody else. And I know my youngest son is I believe that, I can see things kind of a lot better than most people, and he's 100 times better. He's only 9 now, and it's like, I kind of look at how he's in touch, but then I don't knock him, or I don't kind of quash it, or the education system. I intentionally send them to a school that's it's copying the Finnish system. It's very creative. They let them kind of choose themselves. They're not like, unlike us, we were told, sit down, cross your hands, put your finger to your mouth. And like, as you say, I think people kind of shun you into it. If you think you have a gift, they kind of knock it. And just for those that might be listening and think, this is kind of a bit woo-woo. Like, I've seen a lot of, and I've had a few guests on talking about this, but there's one guy, I don't know if you've seen that. He's an Uber driver, and he gets the passengers in and he starts talking. And the things he's saying to him, you just see him freaking out, because he's saying, it's your father, or you had a child died, and he's with that child, and things that impossible for him to know. And I know that through my own experience. I mean, I've talked to a few different people. There's a lot of fraudsters out there, without a
Oh,
doubt. They
yes.
just but I know, like, I remember one time I was working in, it was for a contractor in Ireland. So we were doing like Johnson, a big development there. And there was a
Mhm.
cleaner there, and somebody mentioned to me that she really knows it. And I spoke to her. I said, look, I heard that you've got this gift and everything. So she says, okay, yeah, come here. Come here. And she just caught my hands. And the thing she told me just was impossible for anybody to know, that
Right.
100% she had a gift. And then I brought friends up to her. We organized a meeting, and she basically was just kind of on a donation basis. It wasn't even, it was kind of like a side thing that and every single person was shocked with like, we knew, like, the friends that we brought up, we knew exactly kind of a lot of things about them, and she wouldn't know them at all. It was the first time she met him, and she was saying things that we were like, whoa, and it scared
Yeah.
people, like, you know.
Right.
So like, just for those that might be a bit kind of skeptical, it's like,
Right.
don't knock it till you kind of find the right person, because
Right.
100% there, people have that gift without a doubt.
Well, and you know what's interesting? I love that you brought up there's a lot of frauds out there, but if you look at it too, it's not only the only profession that there are frauds. So there are frauds everywhere. You know what I'm
Absolutely,
saying? So a lot of
absolutely.
people, but and you are right. You need to go to somebody that you feel drawn to. And a lot of people, if you are not ready to have the information, if you're not there and you think it's all woo woo, you're not going to be able to receive the information. Because from the spirit world, you know, and I always, it always sounds kind of strange when I say this, but the message that you get from spirit world, it is for you and for your healing purposes. There's always a reason why you're hearing it. It's almost like, okay, so whenever you're talking to a friend or sometimes even a stranger, you know, in a line when you're at the grocery store, and they say something and you're going, you know what? I needed to hear that for today. That wasn't coincidence. That was definitely the spirit world stepping in and saying, you know what? You need to hear that message for today. So I love that you bring this up, and your son is so lucky to have you, you know, to embrace wherever they are, because kids are so in tuned to the spiritual world.
And what like, I've noticed from a very early stage that even some people, you know, they're kind of, they go up to a child, oh, hello, and they're all, it's fakeness. And he can read that straight away.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is
Yeah.
brilliant at telling who's good and who's bad. And like, I just love it, because my mother has that gift. My mother used to be
Mm.
telling me, stay away from this person, stay away from that person. Of course, I thought I knew better. And they turned out, you know, there was so many different things that happened with the people that she warned me stay away from. And even in
Right.
business and everything, she'd often say to me, no, I don't, I'm getting a bad feeling about that person. And I'm like, look, I know him 5 years. And as it turned out, she's never been wrong. And it's like, so,
Uh-huh.
you know,
It's
it's,
that stubbornness in you. You're going, I can figure it out on
I have to
my
get out,
own.
I
But
have to park my head and get into the heart, you know. And so, like, you studied with Elisa Williams. So is that
yes,
something, just for those that might feel some sort of gift, you might kind of tell me what that entailed and
absolutely.
how you can kind of, you know, improve, I suppose, if you feel something.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever you feel in tuned or you feel like there's intuition happening, you're having a spiritual awakening, and sometimes you hear those voices and you're not going crazy. Okay. So whenever you decide that you want to embrace your gift, because sometimes you get that pull, it is so good to find a spiritual teacher. And I found Lisa Williams. I was really being pulled to her because it really helps you tune into your gifts. It's just like everything else. If you're learning how to read and comprehend in the reading area, you know, in whatever books, the teacher teaches you how to do it appropriately and effectively. It's the same thing with being a psychic medium, is that you tune into your gifts. Even if you are some other light worker, you need to find somebody, you know, to help you in that gifted area. Because a lot of people will also maybe be a shaman. They may be light workers, just working with the energy. They may be crystal healers. There's so many people out there, but you need to tune into your gift and really perfect it. And so I always recommend to everybody that's looking at going into the field or trying to figure out what's going on and educate yourself, to find somebody who teaches this, who is a spiritual teacher, because it really helps get being guided and knowing that you're not going crazy and that you, and it also gives you confidence, because a lot of times whenever I do mediumship, so just to let your listeners know, psychic and mediumship are completely different. So psychic is whenever I go into my client's aura and I read their energy, and that's where you have like the cards, the oracle cards or tarot or whatever. And then mediumship is whenever I connect in with a loved one, so I go directly to a loved one. Okay. And mediumship to me is so much more difficult because, like you said, I love to read people I don't know. And because I try not to read friends or family or anything else like that, because when you get the information, it's scary because you're going, okay, what if I'm totally wrong? But you also have to remember, what if I'm totally right? And this person needs the healing and needs the message. That's when, because when you get scared, you're going to close up and spirit's not going to be able to talk to you. So when you go to a spiritual teacher to help train you and get that confidence going, that's when you can really help as many people as you want to.
And when you done the training, was it in person or online? And is it possible to do it online, or must you have somebody in your local area?
No, energy is energy. Okay. So you can do it over the computer. You can do it over the phone. You don't have to see the person. And to me, it's easier if you don't see the person, because you don't look at the body language, because body language again can kind of make you nervous, because sometimes you'll get clients that, no smile. And you're going, oh no, I'm doing horrible. And they're just trying to keep it together a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? So they're just trying to heal. So yes, so I can read somebody just like you and I here or in person. I really like the person to person contact. It just, being with a person is so much more, I guess, personal, I guess, human contact. But this technology is wonderful that I can read anybody from all over the world. And that is just fascinating to me. But yeah, we would do classes online, and would do energy work. We could feel each other's energy. It just, to me, it's all fascinating. I still can't really grasp it all, because I'm going, wow, how does all this still work?
Well, I mean, with the quantum physics, like I'm
Yes.
aware of the spooky device, you have a nail from somebody across the pond and it can be working away and you can heal them. And so it's like, we don't really have to totally understand it, but it works, like we're all energy. And I mean, that's the, they have
Absolutely.
the science has
Yeah.
proven that, so everything vibrates. So.
Yes. And that's exactly. So so whenever I'm asked if I do it over Zoom, I say, yeah, energy is energy.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So
Yeah.
you were an educator for for your career, basically. And so you would have seen the children in the schools. So, I mean, like, is it something that you were able to kind of encourage? Or because I mean, especially on the Awakening podcast, unfortunately the education system is kind of set up not just in America but all over the world to kind of make us compliant little busy ants in a corporation.
Right. Yes. No. Yeah. So I could never really talk about it, because a lot of the parents didn't, want educators to do that, because the parents are the ones that want to control, what goes on in the home, which is understandable. But what I would do is I would tune in, excuse me, but I would not totally tune in, just so that I could help them educationally, and I would get information. And sometimes I would use my energy to calm either the child down or the parent, depending on who I'm talking to. So I would use a lot of my energy, and because a lot of times I could feel how the parent was feeling. If I was in a meeting with the parent and the parent became angry, I could feel all of this energy coming towards me. So what I would do is I would turn it around and I would pull it back and then send love and calming energy. And that really helped. So even though I wasn't really able to help the children, embrace their intuitiveness, I was able to use my intuitiveness and my energy to help with any type of educational crisis that came up to be.
Yeah, brilliant. And I saw somewhere that you were working with autistic children as well.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
presume, because like from my own experience, what I see, they tend to have a gift when they've got kind of with autism. Have you
Yes.
not? Yeah.
And I think, and I believe it's not only with autism, but a lot of our special needs children have so many more angels around them because they need more protection. You know what I'm saying? There, because they are gullible, especially in the world, but they are very in tune at the same time. And a lot of the children that I worked with autism, a lot of autism kids will kind of gaze off, and and I'm going, they see something that I'm not seeing. And they would just start laughing. And I'm going, okay, you're either communicating with somebody that or an angel or somewhere in spirit. And then I'd have to bring them back to whatever we were doing. But you could just tell that they were watching, and they would just laugh. It was more than one child. And then many times I think they can actually see the energy grid, that is around our earth and around us as well, because they love the different patterns. They love the geometric patterns. And so I think a lot of times they would just be mesmerized with something that was going on. It's almost like a kaleidoscope, that you're looking through. I think they would see a lot of times that type of energy.
Excellent. So you have a live podcast as well. And are you covering kind of this on it, or what exactly are you doing in the live
Okay. So,
podcast?
yes. Well, thank you. Yeah. So my podcast is Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And I love to learn. And so I get a lot of guests on that have, experienced something tragic in their life, and they turned it around and said, you know what? I'm going to get that motivated. I'm not going to let this tragedy hold me down. So they have some type of inspiration that has happened in their life. And a lot of times it is very spiritual, and it's quantum physics. And I just love each and every one of them that I've had on the show, because I read their book and I learn so much more. And I've had chiropractors on that have, spiritual awakening. So it does lead into itself into spirituality, because we're all learning, and it all points to that spiritual awakeness that we all feel, especially through tragedy, because sometimes we need that to wake it up. And to say, you know what, the spirit's world is here to love you, but you've got to wake up. And sometimes tragedy will bring us forward to that.
Excellent. And when you kind of have parents that are kind of open and not fighting this, how can they help the child when they realize, or through, yourself or somebody that kind of identifies that they have a gift?
I always tell parents, number one is to listen to your child. Listen to whoever you feel is in tune. Because I know whenever I would try to start talking to people and they look at me funny, I thought there was something wrong with me. Right. So if you listen to the child's going to feel empowered. They're going to probably they'll feel more comfortable, tell you more what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, and don't judge. And if you cannot help them, then find a psychic medium or a spiritual shop, a metaphysical store that you can go to and say, hey, I don't know how to help my child. And don't be afraid of it, because a lot of parents, the first thing they also ask me is this something evil that's going on? Do I need to protect my child? And, and we're all parents. We want to protect our child, especially with things that we cannot see. But that's where the faith comes in. Listen to your child. If you feel like you need some sort of protection, I'll say get crystals, pray, you can do sage around the room, and for your intention to have love and light spirits come in and talk to your child. And I always tell parents, you don't really have anything to be afraid of. Now, if the child becomes afraid, That's also doesn't mean that's an evil spirit. It just means like they're not in control and they don't know what to do. So if they're not in control, they may not want to experience it. And they can always say, you know what, spirit world, I don't want you to communicate with me at this time. And they have the control to do that. And so that's so important for them to feel like they can control whatever is going on around them.
And what about when there's kind of brothers and sisters then in the house that they, they're not kind of mocking them, or just that
Right.
it's, that it becomes not a scary subject, that they kind of can, I suppose, improve on their gifts.
Well, and I think it's wonderful and I always tell families too, it's almost like you're learning with your child. So every member in the family, if you start meditating, everybody needs to meditate together and learn about it. That way they know how to support each other, and it's almost like you're spiritually coming together. And I'm not talking about religion, I'm just talking about spirituality. So it's totally different. And so if you do yoga together. When you're talking about it, make sure you have everybody in the family. That way, if they do make fun of it, they know the child will still feel supportive. The intuitive child will, because brothers and sisters are going to give each other a hard time anyway. But if they're doing these exercises together, as they get older, they'll embrace it more. And they may even find out they're a little bit intuitive themselves.
Excellent. So your book then, it says Spiritual, Nurturing for Intuitive Children. So you might kind of tell us what exactly you're covering in it.
Okay. So when I originally wrote this book, it was mainly for light workers who were working with these families to help them, guide them, and kind of set up a program for them to do like exercises like yoga, each week, and really have somebody that the parents can talk to and they can walk through. However, a lot of parents are getting a hold of this book and they're going, you know what? I don't need anybody else coming into my home or telling me what to do type thing. I can do it on my own. So what I did is I walk through each chapter. I do a lot of the metaphysical, the basics, what crystals are, what yoga is, what yoga poses are really good for children, and breathing exercises. So there are a lot of exercises that you can do with an intuitive child that are in the book. So it's a great resource for parents to have, so that they go, oh, I can do that. And it's got a lot of artwork in there so that you have art exercises to do with a child, because a lot of the intuitive children are so creative. If you give them color pencils, they're able to draw whatever they're seeing. It talks about keeping a dream journal, doing psychic art, and how to embrace that piece of your child so that they don't get depressed and they can show everybody their unique self. Because what do teenagers do whenever they're not accepted? They try to find a peer group that they're accepted in. And sometimes the peer group is not with their best interest, and they might find that lower energy vibe. That's when the Ouija boards come out. But again, a Ouija board, it depends upon your intention. It doesn't have to be evil. It just depends upon the intention of it all. And then I tell parents, a lot of times, if your 16-year-old wants to read people, do the cards, the oracle cards, do mediumship, why not? They may not, some kids at 16 are very street smart. They understand things that we don't understand. And then there's some that don't, that may not be ready for it. But if your 16-year-old is ready to work, why not? So the book kind of opens the parents' minds to things that they didn't think about before. And hopefully it will help them, broaden their knowledge on what is going on.
I remember I was at a retreat in Costa Rica, and one of the guys who I'd met before, he had oracle cards and they were beautiful. And I was like, I must get them. And I happened to find them, I think, when I visited Ireland. And so I got them. And when I started doing them, 3 times in a row, I got the same card. And I was kind of trying to work out the statistics of actually that happening.
Right,
And
right.
I was like, that's probably impossible. I know the fact that I got the exact same one, even shuffling them and everything. And it was like, this is kind of, but I don't know. I think it's
Exactly.
a case of you get what you need when you're actually.
Exactly. And what I tell people, because I have had a couple of clients that said, I don't want you to use cards. And I'm going, well, I don't need to use the cards. A lot of people love the cards, and it does kind of give you extra information. But I'm the one, or you, like you said, you had the cards, you were using your own energy. So you're activating those cards whenever you're shuffling them and everything else. And then you're setting an intention in your energy if you realize it or not. And yeah, some of those cards is going, oh my gosh, it's right on. It
Yeah,
can be scary, but a lot of times you don't need cards to really know what you need. It's more of a validation, and it's kind of concrete, and it's going, oh, it makes perfect sense, and you got that pretty picture. And I have to tell you a story. I was at psychic fair, and I didn't pull up my cards. I wanted, because I always like to read at the beginning without the cards. And people just pass by my table, and they go to a table full of cards that they had cards out. I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. So then I put my little oracle cards out for everybody to see, and people started coming. So people love those cards. So, and not everybody, I can't read tarot cards, but I can read oracle cards and I can read Lenormand cards. So everybody has a way of what they can read the best. You just got to kind of experiment with what works for you.
yeah, yeah. I know my mom was actually doing tarot cards, and
Yeah.
she used to be scaring people with the stuff because the kind of how accurate it was.
Oh
It
my
was.
gosh.
So with the crystals, then what you might kind of touch a little bit on the crystals. How exactly are they working? How is it that it gets the energy you have to different crystals in the room or around you? I don't know much
I
about
know.
crystals to be
And
honest.
crystals. Okay. So I am not like a big expert. If you come to me and you say, okay, I need this and this and this, what crystal do I need? I'd have to look it up. Okay, so crystals, yeah. So crystals, of course, came from the earth, and they're organic, and they have so much energy. Okay. And I have crystals around my room just to keep the energy flowing, that type of thing. And some people will also use crystals for protection, so that the lower vibe energy does not enter, that type of thing. Some people, I know a couple parents will put crystals in their child's backpacks to go to school with them. So, just to keep that energy up, or, just for protection. So yeah. And I've always loved crystals. But to me, I just like the color. I love now energy. You can feel it if you pick up a crystal. If you're wondering what kind of crystal that you need, what you do is you go to a crystal store or metaphysical store, then you put it in your non-dominating hand. Okay. And then you put your other hand underneath it, stand up, and put it near your stomach. And then if you go backwards, you need that crystal in your energy field. If you just stand up straight and you're not feeling any energy, you don't need that crystal. So there's different ways that you can figure out what you need whenever you're looking at crystals.
Excellent. Yeah, never heard of that before. That's fascinating. And
I
with the
know.
the breath work, then you mentioned is it just kind of like
Yes.
deep breathing, or do you go like into? Because I mean, I've tried all different types of breath work, different facilitators, and I know the benefit. And I just finished actually Wim Hof book, and I
Yeah.
I had met him, and like even just listening to him, how good it is for our health and everything. So
Right.
is it you kind of encourage kind of the whole family as well to just, I suppose, breathe properly
Yes.
instead of shallow breathing?
Absolutely. And I don't think we realize when we shallow breathe, and that's all we do all day. But whenever you're working with spirit, it also, or when you're stressed out of the day, I mean, it can help anybody. You're going to whenever you do breath work, it clears your mind, it clears your energy. And so there are different exercises that you can do. I love what's called the energy ball. And what you do is you close your eyes, you have the kids close their eyes, and you have your arms shoulder wide. Okay. And then you bring your hands together like you're making a ball. Okay. Like a beach ball. Okay. And then you're going to feel that energy that's in there and you're breathing into it. Okay. As you're doing it. And then once you make your energy ball, you bring it down to your chest. Okay. To your heart chakra. Take another deep breath, set the intention. If you want to send love, whatever you want to do, love, light. And then you send the ball out to the world, or you can send it to a friend and you breathe into it. So, so there's different ways. So when you're working with energy, it's a wonderful thing to kind of vibrate with that energy.
Brilliant. And is there a way that like the parents can spot something if the child doesn't realize it themselves?
What do you mean spot?
As
Like
in
what?
like realize that they've got some sort of gift, because the child mightn't be.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I see what you mean. If the child, especially the younger ones, they think it's really normal for them to behave this way. Like, oh, I just talked to, your grandmother who has passed away. And they think that's normal. So and I always tell parents too, if the child comes to you and they're talking to you about this and you're going, and they think it's normal, again, don't react to it and just kind of help them through it. Say, oh, well, that's very interesting, or if they get anxious about seeing a spirit, and just say, okay, let's breathe through it together. So it's always good to embrace that and also do the exercises to help enhance it. Well, show me what your grandmother looked like. Show me that picture. Draw grandma's picture, or tell me a story about why was grandma here? So just start asking questions and just be fascinated with it. And the child's going to feel really good that, what? You may want to, yeah, as a parent, you may also want to say, what? I can't do that. I think it's so awesome that you can do it. So you're reinforcing it. And again, that's a part of them.
And just with like the education then that, with all your experience, because sometimes people, they get on the education, but it's gone weird lately. I mean, we saw all the craziness that's going on, but it's kind of starts in America and ripples across the world. So it's not just,
right.
it's not just specific to the US,
Yeah.
but like what can be done to change? Like what would be your kind of solutions for the education system that kind of stop taking the creativity out of us, and in turn maybe the gifts that the children have as well?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And and I wish I could say that I wish that every teacher would listen to the child at school and embrace it and maybe say, well, write it in your journal, because a lot of times, they have journals. But you know what? It goes with also not education in itself, it's also the teachers that teach, because everybody has different belief systems. They may be afraid of it. So if, as a parent, if your child is at school and they get bullied or the teacher shuts them down and they're having a terrible experience at school, not being themselves, then find a different school that they can go to that will accept it, because there are schools that, like you said, creativity schools that allow the children to be themselves and there's no judgment going on. So they really need to find a school that way. And if they can't, then they can also, because, okay, so I interviewed Ellen Edsmonds. Her son was on the A&E Psychic Kids channel. And it was a series, and it was on the first episode, and she said that at his school he was being bullied. He was writing in his journal, like explaining what was going on with him, and she finally told him, because he would be coming home from school just upset, say, you know what, why don't we just talk about it at home? So, and it then kind of explained to him, not everybody has the same belief system as we do. So it's almost like he was having to learn a hard lesson. Not everybody's going to accept you as you are, but the people who love you, that are close to you, are going to accept you for who you are. And so it's almost like a coping mechanism that he's learning early, and he has to work through it, because not everybody is, loving. A lot of times they're very hateful. And for an empath to learn that and to how to protect themselves, it's very difficult. It's a hard lesson, because, when they're young, they think everybody is just so sweet, so angelic, and they're not. And that's just the world that we live in.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And just finally, with meditation, then, do you practice meditation yourself?
I do. I have kind of gotten off the wagon a little bit because I've been so busy. But yeah, so that's really how I opened up more and more, is through meditation. And I tell people, you don't have to meditate in a quiet room, with your eyes closed. You can meditate sitting outside watching the trees blow. So there's different types of meditation, but I still love the meditation where I'm working on each chakra, trying to get information from the spiritual world, clearing my mind, and whatever happens, happens. Trying to be present. And it slows you down. And whenever I'm really stressed, that really helps me. And I breathe through a lot of things. So yoga and meditation are wonderful.
Oh, brilliant. Listen, Michelle, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. You might let people know how they can get in contact with you.
Sure. So I send everybody to my website. It is all the information there. So it's www.michellehendersonmedium.com.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll make sure I'll put the links both on the audio.
That sounds great.
Okay.
That sounds great. Well, thank you. I've enjoyed this conversation, and I think, these type of conversations are so important, because the more that we have, the more it's like planting the seed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you very much. So
thank you.
So that's all for the Meditation Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, and also check out Michelle's podcast and her YouTube channel. Give her a thumbs up as well and a 5-star rating. Until next week, take care.